So hello everyone, my name is Anna and I'm here with Ola. We are part of Full Abilities project and today we are having an amazing guest. Hello, hello Samantha. Could you
Hi.
please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your illness?
Hey, yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name's Samantha Salvaggio Vanderman, and I have multiple sclerosis. I had relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis for 17 years, and then last month my diagnosis shifted to active secondary progressive MS. Um, and then, do you want to know a little bit about like what MS is in general?
Yeah, you can tell us something more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a condition where your immune system attacks your central nervous system, so your brain, spine, and optic nerve. And it basically, where it attacks, it demyelinates the nerve. So your nerves have this like protective coating called myelin on it, so it can transmit the information quickly. But your immune system eats that myelin off, and so the nerve gets kind of fried and can't transmit information. So wherever your immune system damages the myelin is what you're going to have problems with. So the symptoms of MS like range so broadly. Like it's like there's bladder problems, bowel problems, mood disorders, numbness, abnormal sensations, vision issues, like difficulty with walking or balance or coordination, muscle spasticity and tremors. Oh man, I had another one. Cognition's one. um, but it really ranges.
I assume you've met a lot of medical professionals in your life. Have you ever experienced gaslighting or mistreatment from any of them?
Yes, I did. So early on, I was diagnosed when I was 19, so I was really young. The original two neurologists I saw thought it was MS, but then, I went to other doctors that were MS specialists to see what they thought. And those two wonderful individuals gaslighted me very hard. The one said that I couldn't write, see, or walk, and I couldn't feel my face because I partied too much. And then the other said I had trouble adjusting to college. And that's why, like, I couldn't do all these basic functions, and like my mom was having to like bathe me. Um, and so that was the first two instances. I was recently going through my medical files actually, and I found apology letters from both of those doctors being like, oh, actually, now that it's been a year and you've had another relapse, like we see that it is MS. So that was kind of satisfying, but obviously only so much. And then my more recent experience was I had a neurologist for over a decade that I loved, and he retired. And so I went to the other neurologists in the practice thinking, like, they would practice similarly. And the first one, it wasn't so much gaslighting, but she just didn't ask anything about me. Like, she was more concerned about my pain medication than my current progression that I was experiencing and other issues. And she didn't do a neurological exam. So that just kind of felt like, do you even understand that this is a problem? And then the second doctor in that practice, by that time I had been experiencing a lot of progression and I had like visibly worse symptoms. And I even brought my husband to like help validate that everything was worsening. And he asked to call my therapist because he thought it was stress related. And he wanted to talk to her and see if he could find a psychiatrist for me to go to because he thought it was all mental. And so I gave him like my therapist's number and he called her, and I talked to her after she talked to my doctor, and she said that the doctor was like, oh, so what she was saying, like what I said was actually valid, and I should probably apologize to her because I was like suggesting that it was just stress. But I didn't go back, and I've since found like a good neurologist. But there's been quite a few instances, and you think like once you've been in the healthcare system and like navigated it for quite some time that like, it won't happen again, but then it did. And so that kind of took me off guard, and it always reminds me like the importance of advocating for yourself and knowing that like you do know your body and what's happening is real.
Okay, looking at your Instagram, it's pretty clear that you are a huge fan of fitness and sports overall. So hence the question, how does sports impact your everyday life, and does it help with how you deal with everyday problems?
Yeah, definitely. So MS interrupts your brain from like communicating to your body, and it's important to like keep those connections strong so you can like maintain your ability to like move. And so fitness definitely helps a lot. And I think one thing that I'm really grateful for being involved in fitness for is that like I truly believe that any type of movement is good movement, and it's like workouts don't need to be punishing. It's a time for you to like move and connect to your body and like release some stress. And so I'm really grateful that like fitness has just like made the connection with my body like stronger. Like it's taught me to listen to my body. It's taught me like how to move and just how the body and mind are linked. And so I'm really grateful for that. And then the other thing is that it helped like make me more strong and more confident, like physically, but more importantly, like emotionally and like mentally. Like it helps me feel like I have some type of control over my health. Because there's a lot of unknowns and everything in MS, but in chronic illness in general. And I like that like fitness just gives me a sense of control, and I can like be having a bad day, but take like 5 minutes to go do some like physical therapy exercises that are super like chill and just feel a little bit more like put together than before. And then the last thing is that it's just showed me how to have a sense of discipline and like, stay consistent, but also to be compassionate and be understanding about like what I need at that time. So like, I like that there's so many different ways you can move your body and stuff. And like, if I don't feel well, like I can do those physical therapy exercises that I was talking about versus like doing some intense activity. And just that has helped me like stay consistent and disciplined, and then also taught me to like be more compassionate and kind with myself on like the harder days.
That's really amazing to hear. I'm a huge fan of sports myself, and I totally agree with everything you say. Amazing.
Yay.
But besides fitness, you also show your other hobby, gardening, on your social media. So how do you find motivation on difficult days? And do you have anyone that inspires you when it comes to gardening, but also life?
Yeah. I mean, gardening, it's always such a nice like mental break. I think that's what motivates me to get out there. But if I'm really struggling, I do what I do with anything when I don't want to do something, is I'll try to visualize and like put myself like out in the garden and really imagine like how it feels and how it sounds and how it like smells even and all that. And then think about like, how it makes me feel good and like happy inside. And then I'll go outside. Like that normally would get me to be like, oh yeah, I can go outside. And then after like 5 or 10 minutes, I always like reassess, and I'm just like, okay, if you want to stop now, you can. But most of the time I end up keep going. But just visualizing like how it's going to make me feel better just kind of reminds me that like it's a good thing to be able to go out there, and I shouldn't be like, I don't know, dreading it, or at least give it a shot. As far as inspiration, gardeners, I really like Monty Don. He does like a ton of really great stuff. And there's tons of like sustainable farmers and gardeners that I follow and love. But in general, I think I'm just inspired by anyone that is just like, continuing to go on through like adversity or through difficulties. Like, I think it takes a lot of strength and courage to go through the unknown and to go through you know, like things that maybe you're scared to do. And whenever, you know, like you see someone do that or chase their like passion or whatever, despite like all these challenges, it's just always like really inspiring and gives me goosebumps.
Thank you for sharing those stories about your hobbies, because it's amazing to hear, and I think it's really inspiring. But coming back to the questions, what are the myths that surround multiple sclerosis, and what do you think we can do to debunk them?
I think there were two that I thought of. Like, I think initially, so many people, and I've heard people say this, like that they think their life is over and that they're just going to be like miserable and, you know, like not mobile or whatever. And I think the face of like the idea of that is changing with the more awareness we bring, but it really does just always need to be emphasized that like your life's not over just because you have a chronic illness. Like the illness is a roadblock. Like I'm not saying it is not a challenge, but there's ways to like work around the roadblock and adapt and adjust, like whether it be like adjusting your career or your hobbies or your mindset or whatever. Like there's ways to do that and make it still work for you and make it so you can still enjoy life even despite like having an illness. And the other one, there's this myth that like chronic illness or MS in particular like doesn't really affect your mental health, and it doesn't affect like your mood or emotions or anything. And I think that needs to be debunked too. And that's one reason I share a lot on social media about like the ups and downs and struggles and try to be more vulnerable, because a lot of times like chronic illness can be coded in like this toxic positivity, and that's not realistic. And so like if you're seeing it coded in toxic positivity but you're not experiencing that for yourself, you just feel like a failure. And I think it's important to like show that there's ups and downs, and that if you're at home and experiencing that too, that's totally normal, and like there's nothing wrong with you and you're not a failure. You're just like a normal human being that's trying to live. And yeah, so, and the mental health stuff can have such an impact on how you feel physically. And so I just think it's important to make sure that gets a lot of like consideration as much as like the physical types of ailments.
Talking about mental health and mindsets, we want to know your opinion. Can your mindset help in living with diseases? And if yes, then in what ways?
Yeah, I think it can totally help. Like I always say, like it can be your greatest asset or your biggest like liability. Like your mind truly has the power to like make or break the experience, because whatever you focus on is going to grow. So like if you just focus on the things you can't do or the stuff outside of your control or the unknowns, like you're going to be miserable. And I'm not saying that stuff like doesn't exist, like it very much does. But there's also like this alternate perspective that you could just like introduce as an option, just to show you that there are like other ways to think about it. Like maybe it's nice that chronic illness has forced you to slow down, even though it is really frustrating, but you can like be in the moment a little bit more. Or maybe like for me, I'm always grateful kind of like with how it's taught me to listen to my body more. And so like getting a handle of your mindset can just really help you thrive or set you up not to.
You've already shared like so many lessons and things that I think we can implement into our life. But do you have like this one specific most important thing that you've learned during your long medical journey?
I mean, you said it, like there are so many lessons, but I think the biggest one is just that like things are gray. Like life is like nuanced. Like we're so conditioned often to like believe it's like either black or white. Like you're either sick or you're healthy, and there's nothing in between. But when you have a chronic illness, like you can be sick but like you still have to like get out and live and like enjoy life and live. And so like there is this gray space that like you need to exist in. And I think for a long time I was stubborn and didn't want to believe that, and I wanted to like push myself to be in more of that like healthy spot and like overdo it with my body and everything. And once I accepted that like things can be gray and I can like not feel well but still, you know, like move my body or something, then it just made it a lot easier and a lot less like shame or guilt producing, like to, because then you're not like right or wrong. It's like you're just in the gray.
Pretty amazing how you approach this. I think that your approach is very, wow, I cannot find a word.
Inspiring, inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you
Anyways,
so much.
we've come to the end of the interview, so I have just one last little question. Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't covered yet?
I don't think so. Like your questions were so good. I think the only thing I would say is just for like anyone, I mean, everyone that's like going through life and challenges, whether you have an illness or not, like just to keep going. Like if there's one thing that's true, it's like change is constant and there are ups and downs constantly. And like that doesn't mean just because you're in a down doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. And so I just think the importance of keeping going would be the last little like blurb I would drop in, but you guys did an amazing job like with your questions and everything. So thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. It was really, really amazing to meet you and to get to listen to you and to your story. It's truly amazing, and it's also very inspiring for me personally. Amazing, amazing meeting you. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. We hope you liked the interview. I did, loved it. And yeah, we hope to see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.